Welcome, everybody. You're listening to AFSO 21's Weekend Wrap-Up Podcast. Here is your host, Kevin Ferrara.
Welcome, everyone, to the Weekend Wrap-Up Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ferrara, and this is a special podcast, if you will. We're going to go back in time a little bit, and we're gonna play an interview that I had with one of my very good friends, fellow firefighter, fellow military member, Dan Casson. He and I had chatted. We've been chatting off and on here for, oh my gosh, several years now. And for those that don't know Dan's been dealing with bouts of cancer for quite a long time. And I want to go ahead and play this initial interview that we had, Dan and I, together years ago when we first connected, where he talks about his cancer, talks about the importance of, fighting the good fight, and Dan's still with us today. Dan's, pressing on. He's fighting the good fight. No matter what the obstacles are being thrown at him, he is definitely a fighter. So, I just want to go ahead and, Dan and I had talked about this, putting it out there on a, for folks to hear. Unfortunately, we didn't have a video at the time we did this, so it's just an audio. But for your listening pleasure, I want to go ahead and offer this out there. And so with that, we're gonna get right into the audio interview. Between myself, Kevin Ferrara here at AFSO 21 Weekend Wrap-Up Podcast, and my good friend Dan Casson. So I hope you enjoy. Take the information that Dan provides, and use it. If you're out there dealing with cancer, or somebody dealing with cancer, especially with January 2024 being Cancer Awareness Month, Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month, take heed to what we talk about. Use it, in your everyday lives. Just remember, that cancer is out there. Firefighters were exposed to it a lot through the things that we're exposed to. So like I said, I hope you enjoy this. I know Dan's going to. Like I said, he had asked me to do a recap on this, to play it again, and so Dan and I go back a few years, and I told him, I said, I'm here for you, brother. So I hope you enjoy, and please like, share, comment, and with that, let's get into it. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Weekend Wrap-Up here on AFSO 21 Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ferrara, and today I'm interviewing Dan Casson, a former military firefighter who, just like me, attended fire training at Chanute Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois. While he did so many years before me, he too was exposed to AFFF, which we know today contains hazardous and toxic PFAS. Dan reached out to me on Facebook stating he wants to help his fellow brothers and sisters in the fire service who are dealing with AFFF and PFAS exposure. Today you're going to hear Dan talk about family, firefighting, being a celebrity rock star, and most recently becoming an advocate for change in the fire service with regards to the need for protecting personnel from hazards associated with firefighting duties. Dan, welcome to the Weekend Wrap-Up, and if you would, please take a moment to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. This is quite an honor, and I'm very humbled to be able to tell my story. I'm Dan Casson. I'm 70 years old. I've been married 32 years to the greatest woman in my life. I've got 4 great kids that surrounded me and my family. We have 8 kids total. What I've been through has been very difficult. What I've been through shouldn't have to be dealt through by anybody. And I know that there's men and women there today that's going to hear this story, and they too can do this. And this is my whole point, is that if it's going to save your life and you're going to receive the help that you deserve from the VA, this is the purpose of my story to you.
Thanks for that, Dan. So let's go ahead and kick this off with a few questions. So what got you started as a firefighter? Well, let's back it up a little bit. I did a few
Okay.
I did a few checks here on the internet. Looking at your name, and I came
Yeah.
across you as a rock star. So
A rock star.
I call you a celebrity. Well, I say celebrity rock star because I think I saw some pictures of you on the Merv Griffin show. Is that true?
Yes, it's true.
So what happened with that? How did you get into, being a rock star in a band and getting on TV?
Okay. My father played on the Grand Ole Opry. My dad had an hourly radio program in St. Louis. He's, in fact, in the St. Louis Broadcasting Hall of Fame, and he had his own radio show when radio was big in the 50s. He was very popular. He had his own program. I started playing guitar when I was 5. I turned professional when I was 12, joined the Musicians Union when I was 13. And by the time I was 15 years old, our band, we started when we were kids. At 12 years of age, we stayed together for 8 years, and we became from a garage band all the way from touring to state touring, was playing with stars, and making dreams come true in my teenage years. That was before the Air Force.
Okay. So after your celebrity rock star status, I'm sure you had a lot of groupies and everything tracking you down.
Yeah. Well, there are hazards with the job. What can I say?
Oh gosh, only be young again and do that. Gosh. So after your rock star status and you're being famous, you said before the Air Force. What made you change, or what influenced you to go from being in a band, traveling around, to now going into the Air Force and traveling in uniform?
Thank you. That is a good question. Yes, in the 70s, I was born in East St. Louis, Illinois, so we were very big in that region. But in the 70s, I moved to California, and from there, I was very grateful to be able to meet within a period of just 2 weeks of a group of most gifted musicians, and my dreams came true in a bigger level than what it was in Illinois. And from there, our band, yes, we played on the Merv Griffin show. We did TV summer replacement shows. We've done movie soundtracks, studio work. We toured across the country. When we weren't touring, we were the house band. You'll like this, Kevin. They're on the Sunset Strip there in California at a club called Filthy McNasty's. And we were the house band for 4 years. Across from the Whiskey A Go-Go. So I could tell you that's a whole different story there. But after I survived those years, I decided I needed to grow up and I needed to mature. So that's why I joined the Air Force. That simple.
Nice. Very
so
nice.
I made my dreams come true. And I was really lucky, and I quit. When I ended, we just got through finishing the 6 weeks performance on the Troy Corey show. It was a TV NBC summer replacement. So when I made my decision, it wasn't during bad times. I left at the top of my game. In April, I joined the Air Force. Pardon?
Well, I was going to say that's always how you want to leave, is at the top of your game.
And I was. And I felt real good about that. But there was another time in my life that was coming. I can't explain it, but there was a season. That's the only way I could say it. So I took my dad's advice, and he said, never put all your eggs in a basket and continue to play music all the rest of your life. So one day you won't be doing so. So I wanted to join the Air Force. I couldn't because they said I had a kidney condition. So instead, I joined the Air Force Reserves. I didn't want to stop. And they offered me a position. They gave me several positions after I took my test, and I saw a crash crew. I was hooked.
Yep.
And from there, I was enlisted. From there, finished Lackland to Chanute, and I loved it. I just loved it. I embraced it. I engulfed myself in it. It was a wonderful experience in my life. What a wonderful thing to do, I thought, and it was.
So can you share with the listeners some of your experience at Chanute? Because I went through in 1991, and you went through many years before me. So I've only seen pictures of old school Chanute. So here I am. I'm talking to somebody that went through what I call old school Chanute, and I think a lot of our listeners, even the young guys today, they'll never have that type of experience. So if you would, please share what you saw and experienced at Chanute back then.
I will, and it is in my life is one of my high points. Yeah, Chanute. Well, of course, my time at Chanute was in the fall and winter. Things I remember most about Chanute is being 32 degrees below zero, standing in front of the P2 truck for my class graduation picture, and it's 32 degrees below zero.
and for
I'll
the
never
listeners
forget
out
that
there,
day.
yeah, and for the listeners out there that aren't familiar with Chanute, it's flat. It's in Rantoul, Illinois. I remember going through, when we landed there, we were in a little prop job aircraft, and the cornfields kept getting closer and closer, and that's all you saw was cornfields. And I'm like, we're going down, we're crashing in Illinois before I even get to fire school, and all of a sudden out pops this little tiny airport. I think we landed in Champaign and then traveled up, and I'm like, where we're not in Kansas anymore. We're in the middle of Illinois.
Yeah. Chanute. Building next to us was a bunch. We called them. They were rag packers, and it was the barracks that was just south of us. And we used to pick on them all the time, and they would pick on us. It was like a ritual thing that we had in our day. Where the brag packers would always try to blackmail us and set us up, and we'd do the same thing to them. That's one of the fun things about Chanute. Another thing that's fun about Chanute, of course, is when you do your first burn. Yep. Not the second burn, the first burn.
Oh, yeah. That baptism into fire.
That's when you find out what you're getting into.
Yep.
I loved the men I served with. I loved the esprit de corps.
Yeah.
I loved the honor. I loved the courage. Yeah. I loved the heroism of the humbleness of the men that I had the opportunity just to go to school with. The instructors were above and beyond my awe. What they did. I've even have been contacted by instructors at Chanute where they have been having cancers. They saw the advertisement of the podcast. They contacted me. They've been searching for years. Their group of they are the trainers. They're the instructors that went at Chanute. They're in the 80s and the 90s. They keep a track like we do with fire dogs. And he said they could never figure out what caused their cancers, and they would file claims with the VA and be turned down. And would be turned down when they heard my story. I said, "I'm your missing piece of the puzzle."
So let me ask you this.
It humbles me.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, before, we appreciate you, taking time to go ahead and convey your story. So let me ask you this. During my career, and I've talked to a lot of veterans, that served, during the same time I did, and a little bit before. We were always told, starting at Chanute, that AFFF was just soap and water. Have you experienced that same statement or perception?
Exact words as you quoted.
Okay, because
I'll be honest.
What's that?
We asked, and they said it's just soap and water. That's all it is. It just makes soap bubbles. And you spray it on, it smothers the fire. That's how you fight the fire with the jet fuel. And that's what they told us. It's just so, don't worry about it.
Yep. And for the longest time, for me personally, I always thought it was just me. I thought, am I misunderstanding? Am I, coming up with something that, it's just in my mind? But as I talk to more and more individuals like you and many of the veterans and former firefighters I've had the pleasure to speak with, over the years, I keep hearing that same story, and I'm like, thank God, it's not just me. It's other people that have heard this, and
Yep.
now we need to expand upon that. We need, we know there's hazards associated with that foam. I mean, there's evidence that it dates back to the early 70s that
Yes.
Foam was toxic. There's Air Force reports that are out there, DoD reports,
Yes.
and unfortunately that
I used
information.
those documents.
What's that?
I used those documents with my VA claim.
Okay, so go ahead and talk a little bit more about that VA claim, because I think
Okay.
we've got the listeners' attention. They want to know, how did Dan Casson crack the code to getting the VA to accept disability based on foam?
So how did I crack the code into the VA for my disability on foam? Okay, well, I didn't quit.
Okay.
That simple. I refused to quit. Before I go on that, let me add, I also spent 12 years with the Army National Guard. I also fought forest fires with them.
Okay.
I also fought, I was also a volunteer fireman also for 5 years prior to and after. So I've had a lot more firefighting experience other than just the Chinook. My involvement in firefighting has been hand-to-hand in the fires there at the forest. I was also a common chief at an air cab unit that was handling the aircraft attack at the last fire in, it was near Yosemite Park. So I've been able to do that. I left the military in 1996 as a staff sergeant, E6. I enjoyed it. I have 5 different MOSs. I love the military. I never expected it would turn out in this manner.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, have that same feeling, is that, we joined the military, we volunteered, we thought the military was going to protect us for the most part, and then decades later we're like, no, maybe not so much. And I too, not bashing the military. I mean, the military was great to me, 20 years in the Air Force, loved every moment of it. But just now knowing, what's that? I'm sorry.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Well, that was my goal, was to reach 20 and then pass the baton on to the young guys, and, let them take over. And just knowing now, if we always say, if we knew then what we know now, I think, life definitely would have been different. But,
That's
we
correct.
can't change the past. We can always, work on changing the future. And I think that's where, like I said, we appreciate, individuals like you coming forward and sharing your stories, because
Thank you.
These stories have meaning. And, there's individuals out there that are in a similar situation that are most likely feeling, somewhat isolated. They're like, well, maybe it's just me. But, the more and more they hear other individuals are affected in similar fashion, they open up, they start talking. And, my inbox is flooded, with individuals that are reaching out, whether it's, my email or on Facebook, people reaching out. And, I'm doing the best I can to help them. But, that's why, I can't thank you enough, for sharing your story. So please continue. I mean, we're having a great conversation here.
Well, we have the same heart and mind, and that's what's important. Our story is common, unfortunately. I just happen to be one story, and there's many others, like you said. I started getting cancers. I've had in the past, since 1975, I've had, 1974, 2014 to present, I've had over 25 basal cell cancers. I've had multiple Hoshwell cancers. I've had 3 malignant melanomas. I've had 1 muscle removed from my back. I've also had prostate cancer from 2014 through 2017, and it returned again last year, and I'm currently now under treatment for my second time around with cancer. On my back looks like moon craters from all the holes I have from cancers. My face, from where we would use this Scott Airback, we'd use the mask. Well, the area back in our day, we didn't have the gear that you guys and the guys have today to protect those ears and the necks in those areas. We used our ears to help tell us that we were going. In fact, we were getting too hot, and we need to back off when your ears would tingle. That's how we were trained at Chanute. True?
Oh, very, very true. I mean, even in 1991, they were still teaching that method, not as much, but it was you stay in there until you feel too hot, and then
that's right.
You back out. Yep.
That's right. And what occurred is my cancers started coming all around from where my face mask didn't cover. Think of that.
Yeah.
All along my jawline, above my left eye melanoma, and then I had a huge basal cell, almost lost my right ear. If it would have come just 1/8 of an inch further toward the ear, I would have lost my entire ear. Wow. That was my experience. When I went to the doctor to find out what all these things were, they gave me seven diagnoses at one time. I lost my job because of the cancer. After I told them I had cancer and I had these cancers, 30 days later, they decided my job was no longer needed, and they were downsizing, and they laid me off. That's true.
Wow.
That sucked.
Well, yeah, I could.
Then after that,
imagine. Yeah.
Then after that, then the cancers came. Then the cancer started popping up like blisters when your skin burns. But these cancers were basal cells, and these cancers were popping up all over everywhere. Doctors couldn't understand why. They couldn't understand why.
Now, what years were these starting to pop up, Dan?
2014.
Okay, so PFAS was known around that time, but it sounds like your doctor didn't really know what PFAS was. Is that correct?
No, I had to educate him.
Yep, and that's the same story a lot of firefighters are having to do right now is educate.
Yes.
Educate their medical. Yep.
And I got them on my side. And when I had the doctors on my side, all my doctors, they agreed. And I took my Nexus letter that was given to me as a sample. They did it verbatim, and that unlocked the magic code.
Now,
the reason why I mentioned my previous military career is because I wanted to mention I fought many other fires, many other fires, from chemicals to train fires to ship fires to car fires to forest fires, you name it, aircraft fires. We've done it. But that's the only one at that time at Chanute that I used foam.
Got it. Okay. And
that's why I wanted to mention that strongly.
No, I appreciate that. Yep. Now you mentioned, did I hear correctly, a Nexus letter?
Yes.
I'll be honest, I'm unfamiliar with that. Can you educate me on what that is?
I'll be happy to. If I can fit, it'll explain itself.
Okay.
When all these cancers were coming, and the doctors kept asking me, well, you worship it, you got to be getting it from the sun. You're down here in Florida. No, I was never a sun goddess. Never was. Never did. I knew I'd burn. Never did. But they kept telling me, the doctors, the skin doctors, the dermatologists, the urologists, the oncologist, they kept telling me what's causing these all at one time. It has to be because of the sun. How about your family? No. My family had cancers, but they didn't have these cancers. There's nobody in my family had these cancers. And as it started popping up more and more and more, I finally hooked up. I hooked up with the Pinellas County Veteran Services, and I spoke to a man named Michael Swanger, Swonger. He was my American Legion rep. He's the man who I contacted, and from there, we started our journey with the VA. And that started originally in 2015. We filed it. We were denied. I filed it again. I had to get better information. So this is where I started talking to the doctors. And I started telling them. I started pulling information up off the internet, off of Fire Dogs. Vince Davis, God bless that man.
Yep.
That man sent me an article. And from that one small article started this fire inside me to start this journey. And I've been in touch with Vince periodically through the years as the highs. And that man kept encouraging me. And I want to acknowledge that man. And I also want to acknowledge Michael Swanger. The veterans out there, they can do this. I did not go through an attorney. I went through the Pinellas County Veteran Services. And from then and there, they even went with me to my hearing at the VA with when my final hearing came. That was my key of the beginning. Now, Michael Swanger, through the years, and I had to do my own research, though. I had to do my own research, which I did. We got to a point in time when it came to I had to prove that the doctors would agree that it could be service-related. So I started searching again, and I Googled, and I found research that indicated that Chanute Air Force Base was one of those Air Force bases that had leaks, and people were getting cancers, and it started showing the cancers, the type of cancers. And I started reading other places the cancer, so that's how I started my search. Finally, I approached my doctors, and each one of them. My dermatologist has been with me since the beginning. He's done all the cancer surgeries on my skin. My urologist who's treating me now. I just started today in being treated in the VA system today. I got my blood test this morning. Next week, I get my doctor for my primary care, and they're going to coordinate my cancer treatments with Moffitt Cancer and Research Center. So that journey has now began.
Okay.
So when I was able to get the information and I showed it to my doctors, they agreed. And so I said I had to prove it. So I got back to my rep, Michael Swanger. And he pulled me a copy of a Nexus letter. He said, "You must have this letter and have them sign it." This is a year ago. At this time, my date when I refiled my first decline was October 23rd, 2019. So I've been fighting this with an appeal since that time. But I didn't quit. Don't quit. It's like a firefighter. You can't quit. It's a mission.
Exactly.
True?
Yep. Very
it's a
true.
mission.
Yep.
That's right. You quit that mission, someone's going to die or be injured, or that structure's going to have damage, or that aircraft's going to pop. Correct?
Very, very correct.
That was my focus, and that's how I handled this, and that was how I began my journey. Did that help?
That's spot on, brother. I mean, that's some powerful words right there, and I can only hope that our listeners take your story, continue it in their own quest to find answers,
yes.
and as to why they're sick, or their family members are sick, or their neighbors are sick, because this this isn't just about, firefighters anymore. It's about family members, innocent
Yes.
community members. I don't know if you've seen recently in the news, you talked earlier on here about, back in your day, the firefighting gear wasn't what it is today. Well,
That's correct.
we've just had a study come out, not we, but Dr. Graham Peasley from Notre Dame University. He and his colleagues have conducted a fairly in-depth study, and they've found firefighting gear. They tested over 30 samples of firefighting gear, and they found PFAS in the gear. So it's not just in firefighting foam; it's in the actual turnout gear that firefighters are wearing. And Paul Cotter, he was a lieutenant in Worcester, Massachusetts. He developed cancer, and they believe it came from the firefighting gear that he was wearing. And it's it goes back. It's frustrating to know that, here we are, Dan, you and I, we were protectors. We were the guys that ran towards the emergencies to protect the innocent.
That's right.
But the gear and equipment that we were using was causing damage, or to us, and we didn't know it. And
no, we didn't.
And it's frustrating, but like you said, we cannot quit. We cannot quit this fight until future generations of firefighters, that these future generations, we need to make sure that they are properly protected.
That's right. And they don't have to go through 6 years of hell like I've had to go through.
Yeah. I
It even broke my family apart. It has even divided my family.
Yeah.
You know how?
Please explain, because I think our listeners need to hear this.
Okay. This is how, and I know I'm not the only one. In 2016, during my research, I also discovered that marijuana, it was good for cancers, prostate cancers, melanomas, skin cancers. It also relieved pain, the side effects. So I started smoking, and I told all my doctors, all of them, I did, and they said that's fine. Today, by the way, I do hold a card, legal card.
Okay.
But back then, I didn't, because Medicare would not pay for it, and I was on Medicare then. I even had a family member rise up and divide our family in half because he was so angry because I was smoking pot in front of his mom. He called the police on me to report me smoking pot in front of his mom. The cops came. I told them, yes, I have cancer. They just shook their heads, and they felt sorry,
Yeah.
But we haven't talked in over a year. And it shouldn't have to be. Marijuana is very good for cancer, and I'd like to also have that message stated too. I don't get high. It really is helped my body go through the symptoms. The withdrawal, the side effects that I'm having. It's beyond measure, and it helps me so much. It's not a high; it's a relaxant, and it helps me. I just wanted to say that.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, we've seen, medicinal marijuana has a lot of good for, cancer patients, those with Parkinson's disease. It has benefits out there, and I think more and more education is obviously needed with this. But
yes,
for the listeners out there, if talk to your local, state, federal representatives and encourage them to take a really good in-depth look at this, with medicinal marijuana and, even alternative, medicine out there that
yes,
don't let individuals suffer, because, unnecessarily, don't let them suffer unnecessarily. If it eases their pain and their suffering,
yes.
My gosh, incorporate it, let them, let individuals utilize these alternative forms of treatment, because, just like firefighting, we've transitioned from doing it one way through the years to, tactics, strategies, the way we do things,
Yes.
that's how we better ourselves. And we have to look at the broad brush, with medicine, with firefighting, all of those things, business, you name it. There's always room for change and improvement.
It's sad that it split my family up. It shouldn't have. That was so foolish. But there's other people that have heard this story that have experienced the same thing. And it shouldn't have to happen like this. Yes, I do have the card now, but it doesn't do me any good because the government doesn't honor it. It's still illegal. So it doesn't do me any good. And I'd like to say I'm having a lot of pain off my second round of prostate cancer, a lot of pain.
Okay.
And I haven't taken any pills.
You haven't taken any pills?
Nope. I've been taking the marijuana.
And
I get it filled. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. No pills.
So can you sort of explain to the listeners if the difference between how you feel with with the pills and then as you're off the pills and you're taking the medicinal marijuana? I mean,
yes. My first time I had cancer, they had me on opium. They had me on opioids, opium. They had me on pain pills, pain management. And I said, I quit on my own. I said, I'm not doing this. I stopped on my own, cold turkey back then. And I chose this way. So this time when I found out my cancer returned, I told my doctors the same thing, and my primary care doctor was the one that said, let me get you a phone call and I'll get it taken care of, and is a family practice doctor and it's legitimate. And yes, it takes care. I have terrible pain, but it does not. It takes away my pain. My body feels like it's screaming from the inside out of the side effects I'm getting. Right now I'm getting shots, and my body doesn't take them well. I get extreme sweats, were as profuse. And then extreme cold. I will have to change clothes 4 or 5 times a day sometimes, and 2-3 times at night.
Oh, wow.
At the same time, my body's screaming out. My appendages have disappeared, and due to the shots. And they no longer are, they were at one time. And I think the listeners know exactly what I'm talking about. And if it's doing this to my body outwardly, what did those radiations do to my body inwardly? I cannot have on my second cancer. I can't have prostate surgery because it's too dangerous. I can't take radiation because of all the scar tissue from the first time of my prostate cancer. They can't go ahead and give me chemo because of the radiation I had prior to, and the treatments. The only other option they have is not fun, but I don't have those. I don't have many options.
Yeah.
But I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to win. I beat it one time, and I'll beat it again.
Well, you're the rock star Dan Casson. You're a fighter, brother. You're gonna keep fighting. You're gonna keep rocking. You're gonna win this battle.
I am. That's been my attitude from day one. I'm not asking for anything. There's many men and women out there that deserve this far more than I do. We know what we're talking about. Any veteran would say that.
Yeah.
It just humbles me that I got 100% disability. Yes, I do need it. Yes. But it shouldn't have to be as hard as I had to go through to get it. And that's why I'm talking to you today.
And that's the fight. If fight is the word, I mean, we're trying to work with Congress. They're making some advancements, especially with the National Defense Authorization Act, with blood testing for firefighters. Recognizing PFAS is dangerous. There's bills being introduced to get rid of products that contain PFAS. Unfortunately, it's come almost 40, 50 years down the road since we've known AFFF and PFAS has been out there, but what advice do you have for those veterans that are out there right now that I'll be honest, dealing with the VA can be frustrating at times. a lot of veterans just at some point they give up because they keep getting the runaround. We've heard you say don't quit, but what other advice do you have for those listening, or that we can reach out to say, yes, don't quit, but here's what else you need to do to make sure you get that disability rating. Now, we're not going to guarantee they're going to get 100%, but at least something, so what advice do you have for them?
I will. I didn't know my rating would be 100% until I received it in the mail. And I would also like to indicate, too, and it's worth the fight. Yes, I received a back pay check from 100% disability that went back all the way back to October 23rd, 2016. And that day changed my life. And it was worth everything I had to go through to get that. And when I posted that picture when I first met you, that was a picture of all the research I had to do on my own to get the outcome of that check.
And there's probably mounds of research that you had to do, yes. Countless hours, yes. Tireless yes. nights, and yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So what I would suggest to them is I would contact your your veterans veteran service. I really would. Every county has one. Ours is at that time was Pinellas County Veteran Services. It's free. They will go and they will walk you through. They will provide you examples. That's where I got my Nexus letter. He provided Mike Schwanger that Nexus letter. And when it wasn't quite right, I showed it to him before we sent it in to the VA. He said, you need to tighten it up higher. And I went back to the doctors again, and I told them where I needed to tighten it up and exactly what to say. And the doctors complied word by word verbatim. And all three doctors stated in that Nexus letter that officially states that it's in their medical opinion, it states that probably more so than not that the cancers that were listed of each doctor was probably caused by the phone. And it stated that on that letter.
Wow. I mean,
yes, sir. That was the key. Then they hooked that up. I had my DD-214s. I also had my my Chanute orders. I also had I had pictures. I had like all of us do.
Yeah.
I had that, and I had to tie my date into that event. And with Chanute Air Force Base, since I had no other, and I told the VA during my hearings and other times of my previous and after firefighting experiences, it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with that phone, and that's how I was able to hook Chanute in with that phone. And that was the key. And then from there, yes, I got my 100% rating permanent. My wife is now dependent, and I started my first, my doorway opened today for treatment. And that's how I did it. It's your VA. Pinellas County, Clark County, any county you're in. It's a veteran service. It's free.
And just a word of advice to the listeners, you've heard Dan say it over and over and over. Don't quit. If somebody says no, if they turn you away, find another door, open that door, yes. Talk to somebody yes. and say, look, yes. I want answers. I deserve answers. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to be that thorn in your side until I get some answers. The
yes.
VA's come a long way. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do with them. We know that, but like Dan has said, do not quit with this. I mean, this doesn't affect just the veterans, the military members. No. It affects the family, and even friends. And in the fire service, yes. You always hear it's a brotherhood. One person's story will affect, hundreds, if not thousands of other firefighters out there that are they're listening, they're looking for information, because quite honestly, the information's not being socialized with with individuals. It takes us to do the research, and that could be months or years until you come up with an answer. I mean, for me, the listeners have heard me say this over and over with my blood test. I just recently had a PFOA blood test. It took me a year to find out it was actually available, but unfortunately, the results have come back said non-detectable. Well, okay, what does that mean? Do I have PFOA in my blood? Most likely, but I don't know how much. And the amount that's in there, what damage has it already done to my body that nobody has
Yes.
diagnosed yet. So
It shouldn't have to be that hard.
No.
May I add this?
Yeah, you can
May I add this?
You can add anything you want, brother.
This is a weakness that I'm facing that the VA could really button up. When I received my rating, there was nobody there to tell me how to get my benefits, how to get your ID. Nobody to talk to. How do I get involved into the system? Nobody. And nobody could give me any answers. That was the hardest. Now, when the virus popped in, that complicated things even more because everything shut down. But it's taken me now almost 3 months from the time I got my disability rating to today to where I was finally able to get in. And it shouldn't have to be that difficult. It was just as a big a maze getting into that VA today as it was starting my claim.
And that's crazy because we have the technology out there to, if you can't do a face-to-face, we have phones, we have internet, we have the means to go ahead and communicate with each other, the VA and the military members. So,
yes.
I got to say 3 months, it's a long time, but, we've heard horror stories of, veterans out there waiting years before, they get an appointment. And it's just, that's it's insane. It's absurd. It should not happen. I may be a little biased here, but veterans put their lives on hold when they volunteer to serve their country. They've fought, sacrificed, everything that they've got. When they come home, and seek out medical treatment. I'm not saying they should, be gods and be put to the front of the line. But my gosh, don't let us wait, months or years. And some, God forbid, they pass away before they get, seen or get the results, they're looking for. So again, I mean, you nail it with just that simple phrase, don't quit. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Put it back into that firefighting mode. You just got to. Yeah, you have to. It's part of our training. I want to add one story. There was one time in my life I almost died. It was a fire. It was a training fire, by the way. It was not at Chanute. It was in Coalinga, California. They had a house, and they were going to do a practice burn. It was an old house. And during this burn, the intent was for the firefighters would go ahead and make the initial attack, put it on a spray, make the attack, and then make exit. That was the plan. It didn't go as planned, as sometimes it doesn't. Well, this day, I was one of the first of the 3 men that went into that holding that hose. What happened is when they let me in, it was the first because I had more experience than what the city firefighters had, so that's why I was there. We were the first team to go into the burn. When we went into the burn, there was linoleum that mounted through the scores of years, and the fire went up the wall, up the ceiling, down behind us, and trapped us. This is where training kicks in. And when we were at Chanute, if you recall, the one thing they tell us not to do is do not panic. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do not panic. At that moment, training kicked in. What happened is we got inflamed. The fires were all around us. At that time, the 3 of us, you get up and run? No. We huddled, got as close to that floor as we could possibly get. I had a Scott pack on. We all had Scott packs on. We had the one hose. We had sprayed a fine mist, and that was our protection over us. When our ears started tingling, we were saying, hit us, hit us. Make a long story short, when they finally got us out, we had second and third degree burns on our face and our neck and our backs. During that period of time, I say this is that we train as we fight and we fight as we train. And even though there's training burns, those training burns can turn deadly instantly, as we know.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And
that happened to me. And there was 3 firefighters. We all were sent into the hospital with second and third degree burns. And I'd do it again if I needed to.
Yeah, I think for a lot of folks, firefighting. We've talked about blood and contaminants, but firefighting, if there's one positive contaminant, it's that that gets into your blood. Firefighting is really unique. I mean, it's not for everybody, but those that do it often enjoy it. It's a rush. It's a high, if you will.
It is.
For me, I got into the service, the fire service when I was 16 because I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to help people, just on a larger scale. And firefighting was my way of doing that. And, throughout my military career, and I was a volunteer firefighter, still am here in Pennsylvania. It's just getting out there with
your blood.
It is. It's in your blood, and and I love it. And you being a volunteer firefighter, former firefighter yourself, you get down to the firehouse. Some people call them the bubbas. You get down, you hang out, you pull up a chair, you sit there in the front ramp, you share stories. It's
Yep.
just a great feel good time. And for listeners out there, even if you're not a firefighter, go by the firehouse, introduce yourself, talk to those that are there. I mean, they love folks coming by. I mean, now with the whole COVID thing, you may have to wear a mask or, 6-foot distance, but at least go down and thank them for what they do and the sacrifices.
Great idea.
Give. Well, Dan, I got a couple off the wall questions here.
Okay.
Unless you got something else you want to share. Anything else?
No, I think I'll follow your lead.
Okay. All right. So, first question, what do you consider is your greatest achievement?
What do I consider being my greatest achievement? Oh, my wife just said it was her.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, you see, I'm the head of my house, but my wife says she's the neck. So 32 years. I say that my greatest achievement is being a father and in loving my family.
Awesome.
And my family loving me and supporting me and embracing me. I couldn't go through this a second time like I'm doing now. I'm miserable right now. But if I didn't have my family, I couldn't do this. That's my greatest achievement, is being a father, and my family loves me.
Well, hats off to you, brother. And just so you know, you've got my support. You've got all my listeners' support. I think you've got the thousands, if not millions, of firefighters around the world pulling for you. And we've got your back.
Thank you.
Just like any fire, you don't go in it alone. You've got a team that works with you, and we're your backup team. So we got your back, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you. This isn't Hollywood. Hollywood is where they go into fires alone. They're heroes. That's not real world. You always go in with the partner, and
Yep.
I appreciate everyone's support. I really do. I didn't ask for this, but this is my story, and my hope is that get out there, file your claim. If I can do this, you can do this. And if I did it by myself, now you got a path. Use it. Enjoy the benefits you deserve. You served your country. You've honored your family. You got cancer. Do this.
Yep. So just a few more of these questions.
Okay.
Now this one, I'm really curious about this one.
Okay.
What's left on your bucket list?
Oh boy, what's left on my bucket list? Let's see. Well, let's see. Fortunately, I've been able to strap in the back of a T-33 twice. My job is the mission of observation. It was I'd like to do that again. I'd like to be able to get strapped in the back of a fighter, and we were a target plane. In fact, you may see the pictures of that in my Facebook. We were a target plane, and they're F-4s. Oh, that was the ride of my life. I was able to do it twice. I'd like to do that again.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. I'll say too bad on that one. That is on my bucket list. I'd like to do it again.
So with that, what would be your best day ever?
When I held a $146,000 check in my hand, I got from my back pay from the VA with $3,670 a month for the rest of my life. That was my day.
That was your best day. There you go, brother. There you go.
And it came in the mail without any pre-warnings or anything.
Wow. It's, that's sort of how, my rating came. I had filed, I heard the stories. It's like, it's going to take, 6 months, a year before you get your rating. And, it was a couple months. And like you said, you just get this notice from the VA in the mail, and it's like, okay, what's this? And I almost threw it out. I'll be honest with you. I almost threw it out. I'm like, it looked like junk mail. I opened it up and it said, here's your rating. And it's like, whoa, okay. Wasn't expecting that. So
You're right. And I have thrown it away because I've been contacted. And if it wasn't for my American Legion rep, I would have been screwed because I did throw it away. And he contacted me. Did you respond to this question? What question? I thought it was junk. You're right.
Yep.
You got to have someone there guiding you among these forms and things. That's where my American Legion rep came in.
Yep. So, I mean, more good advice, it's like you said, it's, reach out to the VA, go door to door until you get answers, contact your local Legion, your local VA office, your county office. Those are individuals that are there to, they're there to help us, they're to help the veterans. So reach out to them, don't let them just sit there and play solitaire all day long, put them to work.
How I discovered that the Veterans Service, I was so frustrated with the cancers going on. I went to my congressman and I asked him, and he didn't have any answers, but he told me to go ahead and go to the county vet services, and I did. That's how it started.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Okay, last question for you, Dan. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
If you could send a message to the entire world, what would you say in 30 seconds? But I'm going to give you a minute.
Okay. God is real. It is real because it was by his hand that this happened to me, and all the good things that has happened to me is going to be given to you. I do say this, is that there's nothing better in this world than serving your country. There's nothing greater and the most powerful thing in life than being protector of your country and being protector of your goals and the families and the values that we have. This is what I say to everybody out there, and we can all love one another right now. All of us. We all bleed. We all breathe. And let us all do it together. And this is my word to everybody out there. We're all human. And firefighters are out there to save lives and protect properties. That's my message.
Outstanding, brother. Well, Dan, I want to thank you for sharing your story. And I got to be honest, what a powerful story it is. So, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Weekend Wrap-Up. You've been listening to former military firefighter and what I consider celebrity rock star Dan Casson, who, has been dealt a deck of cards that really nobody wants. He's battling cancer. He succeeded in obtaining 100% VA disability rating. And as you've heard him say over and over, he refuses to quit until his cancer is gone forever. And we can make sure that future firefighters do not endure the same struggles and endurances that he's had to have over the years. So with that, folks, we're out of here for this episode. We will talk to you on the next one. Have a great day.